Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Vaibhav Jyotsna Srivastav. With me is Renuka R.S., bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment, and more. The headlines. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar meets Israeli counterpart Yair Lapid. Both nations agree to resume negotiations on free trade agreement in November. India supports consensus-based principles and a peaceful, open, rule-based and stable world order, says Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. French ambassador to Belarus expelled amidst tensions with EU. Russia suspends NATO mission in retaliation to the expulsion of its diplomats. India to participate in the upcoming Moscow format meeting on Afghanistan. And at the T20 World Cup, Ireland defeat the Netherlands by 7 wickets. As India is on the verge of vaccinating 100 crore people against the COVID-19, All India Radio salutes the doctors, nurses and others who are making this possible. At the same time, we caution our listeners that the battle against COVID is not yet over. We appeal to our listeners to get fully vaccinated at the earliest and also help others get vaccinated. During the festival season, please follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact the national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. External Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, reviewed the progress of the ties with Israel with the alternate Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Israel, Mr. Yair Lapid, on Monday. In his remarks after the meeting with Mr. Lapid, the minister said that as COP26 approaches, the issues of green growth and green agenda were discussed. Dr. Jaishankar also noted with pleasure the resumption of the negotiations on the Free Trade Agreement FTA between the two nations. He said the talks will start in November this year and expects to be concluded by June 2022. On the issue of resumption of travel, Dr. Jaishankar expressed pleasure at the in-principle mutual recognition of each other's vaccine certificates. Dr. Jaishankar also welcomed Israel as the newest member of the International Solar Alliance.
Another issue on which we have been working on is, of course, how to travel in this COVID era. So I know that in principle we have agreed on mutual recognition of our vaccine certification process. And while we are working that out in the interim, Israel would allow people with Covishield vaccines to travel to Israel. I'm also very happy at the inauguration of the Women in STEM mini conference on November 24, where women scientists from both sides.
During his interaction with the Indian Jewish community and Indologists on Sunday, Dr. Jaishankar said that India's connection with Jerusalem go back 800 years. He mentioned one of India's revered Sufi saints, Baba Farid, meditated in a cave inside the city walls in Jerusalem. He also mentioned the nostalgia that All India Radio's signature tune evokes and its Israeli connection in his address.
Of course, the community has excelled as poets and artists in India. The name Mr. Musical readily comes to mind, whom we honored with the Sahitya Academy Award. And people of my generation, in fact, grew up with the signature tune of All India Radio that was composed by a Jewish exile in India, Walter Kaufmann.
Walter Kaufmann, who composed the signature tune of All India Radio, was one of the many Jewish refugees who found a safe haven in India from the Nazis. He moved to India and worked as a director of music at the All India Radio in Bombay from 1937 to 1946. Meanwhile, India has confirmed its participation in the Moscow format meeting on Afghanistan. The meeting, which is being hosted by Russia, is scheduled to be held in Moscow on Wednesday. The Ministry of External Affairs has said India received an invitation and will be participating in the meeting at the Joint Secretary level. This will be the first Moscow format dialogue after the takeover of Kabul by the Taliban in August 2021. The meeting is likely to be the first time India will meet the Taliban face-to-face since it set up an interim government last month. Taliban has also confirmed its participation in the meeting. According to the Afghan Foreign Ministry, the delegation will be headed by Abdul Salam Hanafi, Deputy Prime Minister of the interim Afghan government. The Moscow format was introduced in 2017 on the basis of the six-party mechanism for consultations between special representatives from Russia, Afghanistan, China, Pakistan, Iran and India. Elsewhere, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken spoke with Qatari Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani about Afghanistan on Sunday. Secretary Blinken thanked Qatar for its strong partnership on regional security issues and assistance to safety transit of U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents and Afghans at risk.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh on Monday stated that as a responsible maritime stakeholder, India supports consensus-based principles and a peaceful, open, rule-based and stable world order. He said India envisions the Indian Ocean region with the universal values of rule-based freedom of navigation and free trade, in which the interests of all participating countries are protected. The minister was addressing the naval commanders during the inaugural session of the second edition of the Naval Commanders Conference of 2021. The conference was attended by all operational and area commanders of the Indian Navy to review major operational, material, logistics, human resource development, training and administrative activities. Underlining India's unique geographical location of India, the minister said there is a greater need to maintain peace and stability within the Indian maritime zones in order to boost trade and economic activities. He stressed that Indian Navy's role in ensuring maintenance of this peace and stability in the region is going to increase manifold in the times to come. The UK carrier strike group sailed to Bangladesh and arrived at the naval base in Chettogram on the 14th of October. The UK government, in a statement, said that the move is a representation of the Indo-Pacific tilt in the UK's foreign policy. The carrier strike group made its maiden deployment in May 2021 and has successfully conducted operations and engagements in the Mediterranean and the Indo-Pacific. The strike group is also expected to arrive in India as part of its voyage. Meanwhile, India and UK held their inaugural maritime dialogue in a virtual format on Monday. This was agreed upon in the India-UK Roadmap 2030 for future relations, adopted at the virtual summit between the two prime ministers in May 2021. The consultations, which were led by the two foreign ministers, involved exchanges and cooperation in the maritime domain, Indo-Pacific and regional and multilateral cooperation.
France's ambassador to Belarus has left the country after being ordered out by the Belarusian government. Authorities in the capital, Minsk, demanded he leaves by Monday. According to reports, Ambassador Nicolas de Lacoste left the country on Sunday. 57-year-old Mr. de Lacoste was posted to Minsk last year. France, along with the other EU countries, has not recognized Mr. Lukashenko's claim to a sixth presidential term. The bloc alleges widespread voting fraud after last August's elections, which brought Mr. Lukashenko to power for a sixth term. The European Union has imposed several rounds of sanctions on Lukashenko's government since the crackdown on protests erupted against his rule.
Russia said that it would halt its diplomatic mission to NATO in response to the expulsion of 8 Russian diplomats on Monday. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, in a media interaction on Monday, announced the closure of the Russian mission in NATO. According to reports, on 6th of October, NATO had stated that it had expelled 8 members of Russia's mission to the alliance, accusing them of espionage. Meanwhile, a high-level Russian delegation met with the president of Syria, Mr. Bashar al-Assad, together with members of a Russian interdepartmental delegation, including representatives of the Russian Defense Ministry on Sunday. In a statement, the Russian Foreign Ministry on Monday said that during the meeting, the parties conducted a detailed review of the current situation in and around Syria. They also discussed stability on the ground while continuing the fight against terrorism. In addition, the parties discussed matters of mobilizing comprehensive humanitarian assistance to all Syrians in need with the consideration of UN Security Council Resolution 2585 and by advancing the Syrian-led political process implemented by the people of Syria with UN support as stipulated by the UNSC Resolution 2254.
Amid reports of violence against the minority community from some places in Bangladesh, Home Minister Asaduzzaman Khan Kamal has assured that communal harmony will be protected in the country at any cost. In an interview to a news agency, he said that investigation is underway and the culprits will not be spared. Speaking about the handling of the situation, the minister said that hundreds of people have been arrested and 4 rioters have died in police action. The Home Minister said that these incidents are intended to tarnish the image of the country and the troublemakers will not be allowed to succeed in their mission. He said that Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has instructed all concerned to provide necessary assistance to the victims. The Biden-Harris administration on Monday launched a plan to combat PFAS and polyfluoroalkyl substances PFAS pollution. In a statement, the White House said that a comprehensive strategy that outlines concrete actions over the next 3 years has been launched. A report.
Per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS, are a group of manufactured chemicals used in a wide range of industries for their useful properties. These human-made chemicals are used in a wide range of consumer and industrial products, including in stain and water-resistant fabrics and carpeting, cleaning products, paints and firefighting foams. One common characteristic of concern of PFAS that many break down very slowly and can build up in people, animals and the environment over time, a phenomenon called bioaccumulation. PFAS can be present in our water, soil, air and food as well as in materials found in our homes or workplaces. U.S. Environment Protection Agency EPA said that the current scientific research suggests that exposure to high levels of certain PFAS may lead to adverse health outcomes. These include reproductive effects such as decreased fertility, increased risks of cancer, developmental defects and interference with hormonal functioning, among others. The Biden administration has launched the PFAS roadmap to research, restrict and remediate harmful PFAS. The roadmap includes steps to control PFAS at its sources, hold polluters accountable, ensure science-based decision-making, and address the impacts on disadvantaged communities. Nishit Kumar for World News, AIR.
This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
In today's Hotspot section, we bring you an exclusive interview with Dr. Mrityunjay Mohapatra, Director General of Indian Meteorological Department, IMD, on the topic Weather and Climate Science for Society. The interviewer is Sanjay Jha, a journalist.
IMD Indian Meteorological Department has done a wonderful job with adopting new technologies, new mechanism of predictions. And now the farmers are looking forward to get the predictions. The fishermen on the sea coast of India, they look for this IMD predictions. Dr. Mohapatra, how we have done as a country in last 75 years for the weather predictions?
If you just look at the progress of weather and climate, you will find that India Meteorological Department came into existence in 1875. But however, the rapid progress in the development of the science of meteorology and conversion of science to the service to the society has been possible after the independence. After independence, we have been able to augment all the aspects of weather forecasting. If I look at the past, taking one example, say the service to the farmers. In 1945, the state level weather services started in the country for the farmers. At that time, there was no information integrated with this service from the agriculture aspects. 1976, it was the combined initiative of Ministry of Agriculture and India Meteorological Department to provide a package of information on weather and its impact on agriculture. And thereafter, in 1991, we started the agro-meteorological services for 127 agroclimatic zones.
So by that time, we identified the agroclimatic behavior of the country, and 127 zones of the country was identified. And by 2008, we started the district level agro-meteorological advisory services. And in 2018, we started to provide the block level agro-meteorological weather services. So taking just an example, how the country like India, which is mainly agrarian, has witnessed the improvement in weather and climate information to support the socio-economic activity of the poor society, including the farmers. Same is the case with respect to the fishermen and other stakeholders. It has been possible because of the many reasons. One of the most important reasons is that after independence in 1940s and 50s, we introduced the open-air observations by releasing the balloons, by releasing the sensors, and which are tracked by the radars. The first radar came into existence for monitoring of weather in 1950 in Calcutta. At the same time, gradually it was supported by augmentation of observations with the radio sun and radio wind network, and this progress continued with establishment of satellite-based observations in 1980s. We got the INSAT series of satellites coming at 1982, and its service started in 1983. In between 1970s, because of the disastrous cyclones affecting the coastal areas, the government decided to have the cyclone detection radars all along the coast. So therefore, in 1970s, we got 11 cyclone detection radars along the coast, which have in better monitoring of the cyclones. Similarly, in 1990s, we came up with observational tools like buoy, that is the floating platform over the oceans to monitor the weather over the oceans with the data per region. By the way, also we came up with automated weather stations in 80s and got augmented in 90s and 2000s. Parallelly, when we went on improving our observational systems, we also went on developing the numerical weather prediction models. At present, Ministry of Earth Sciences and India Meteorological Department runs and operates about 7 numerical weather prediction models every day, twice, based on observations of morning and observations of the evening. So to carry out all these things, we went on procuring and establishing the high-performance computing system. With a humble beginning during 80s, in the country now, Ministry of Earth Sciences has the capacity of about 10 petaflops capacity of the powerful computing system, which is helping not only to run these models, but also develop various products useful for different sectoral applications. So while I gave you an example that we started with emphasis on agriculture in 1945, gradually we went on providing the forecast and warning services to various sectors.
Dr. Mahapatra, you also have a very good reputation of helping out neighborhood countries. What exactly you do for our neighborhood countries? Can you please tell us a little bit about IMD's role with the countries around us?
Just like we believe in the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, India Meteorological Department also tries to help the neighboring countries in the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. India being a regional leader, it is recognized worldwide as a regional specialized meteorological center to provide guidance, warning, and services to all the countries in South Asia and also the Middle East, to provide advice on tropical cyclones, heavy rainfall, winds, sea waves, etc. to all these countries. With the help of this early warning and advisories provided by India, their country could take off the disaster-related aspects and minimize the loss of lives and properties. In addition to that, since the establishment of Global Maritime Distress Safety System, we are providing guidance about the waves, about the swells, which are very dangerous, and about the weather conditions which are dangerous to the shipping community. As the Center of Global Distress Mitigation, we provide the guidance and forecast every day, around the year, to all the countries involved in shipping activity in Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea. We also play a significant role under the World Meteorological Organizations to provide guidance on severe weather to all the South Asian countries. For Middle East and Asia Pacific countries, we are also providing the aviation support. For any international civil aviation, if there is any severe weather over this region, we provide the guidance. So therefore, the countries starting with the Southeast Asia, South Asia, Middle East, and West Asia are getting benefited because of the improved weather and climate services by India. Apart from this, we also act as a regional climate center to provide the seasonal forecast of temperature and rainfall for South Asia. We also act as a regional meteorological training center to provide training to weather forecasters from Asia and Africa. So by that way, India not only provides the early warning service, but also it provides the capacity building of the region to enhance their capacity to fight with the various types of hazards in this region.
Dr. Mahapatra, now obviously you know that there is going to be an international conference very soon in the Glasgow of United Kingdom, where world leaders will be talking about climate change. So your role as a premier weather agency of a country like India, it becomes much more important. How do you see your changing role for the world community?
The climate change is posing a serious threat to different countries in the world, both developing and developed countries. In India also, we have experienced the impact of the climate change. When I say the climate change, it is the enhanced climate change which is occurring because of the global warming in association with the enhanced concentration of the greenhouse gases. So, therefore, the climate change has the various aspects. The first and foremost aspect of climate change is the monitoring and the detection of the climate change. India Meteorological Department is responsible for detection of climate change by providing accurate observations of temperature, rainfall, severe weather, and all parameters relevant for climatology and climate change. So by that way, every year we provide a statement from India Meteorological Department about the climate conditions over the country. And that annual climate statement becomes a part of the WMO statement for the entire globe. The climate change phenomena, which is being monitored jointly by WMO and the world bodies, that is based on the information provided by the India Meteorological Department. Not only that, the second aspect is about the attributions, the factors which are responsible for the climate change, that is also analyzed with various research and developmental work within India Meteorology Department and Ministry of Earth Sciences. There is a Center for Climate Change Research in Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, which is dedicated towards the research on climate change specific to India and neighborhood. For the first time in this the context, I want to inform that Center for Climate Change Research is running an Earth system model to provide the forecast on climate change. And this forecast is being considered by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, while formulating the global statement with respect to climate change. Apart from this detection and prediction of the climate change aspects or projections of climate change aspects, we also provide the basic data with respect to adaptations and mitigations, especially with respect to the extreme weather events.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mahapatra. We hope that IMD continue doing its fabulous job for building a better and brighter future of the country. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
The Fourth General Assembly of the International Solar Alliance, ISA, is being held virtually between October the 18th and October the 21st. U.S. Special Presidential Envoy for Climate John Kerry will deliver the keynote address on 20th of October, while the European Commission Executive Vice President for the European Green Deal, Frans Timmermans, will also address the gathering on 20th of October. The annual assembly will deliberate on operationalization of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's One Sun, One World, One Grid initiative. In an exclusive interview with All India Radio, Director General of the ISA, Dr. Ajay Mathur spoke India's regulatory system to incentivize the production and use of solar power.
The way we have done it in India is through a regulated electricity system in which, number one, the tariffs for consumers are fixed by the regulator. And the tariffs in turn decide what is the price that distribution companies would pay when they buy the electricity. So what this does is it enables the guys who are generating electricity to get a decent return on their investment. Currently in India it's 14%. We'll probably reduce it further. And at the same time, the benefits are passed on to the consumers. In other words, the only way to ensure profitability for the generator and lower prices to the consumer is to ensure that you have fully functioning and transparent regulatory systems.
Moving on to sports, in the men's T20 Cricket World Cup, chasing a victory target of 189 runs, India were 163 for 2 in 17 overs against England in the first warm-up match at Dubai International Stadium when reports last came in. Meanwhile, Ireland defeated the Netherlands by 7 wickets in the third match of first round Group A at Sheikh Zayed Stadium, Abu Dhabi this evening. Ireland overhauled the target of 107 runs in 15.1 overs. In another qualifier match at the same venue, Sri Lanka defeated Namibia by 7 wickets. Earlier, Sri Lanka won the toss and elected to bowl.
And now a report from the business world.
At the stock markets rising for the sixth straight session, Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange climbed 460 points, or 0.8%, to end at another all-time high of 61,766 today. Nifty at the National Stock Exchange advanced 139 points, or 0.8%, to a fresh record high of 18,477. At the domestic forex market, rupee lost 9 paise to 75 rupees and 34 paise against the dollar. Amongst global markets, Asian markets ended mostly lower today. So Japan's Nikkei 225 index ended 0.2% lower. China's Shanghai Composite Index shed 0.1% and South Korea's Kospi Index fell 0.3% at the close. Singapore's Straits Times Index ended marginally lower, but Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index gained 0.2%. In Europe's London's FTSE 100 had shed 0.2%, France's CAC 40 had fallen 0.8%, and Germany's DAX had declined 0.4% in intraday trade. Global crude oil prices hit multi-year highs today, buoyed by recovering demand and high natural gas and coal prices, encouraging users to switch to fuel oil and diesel for power generation. So Brent crude oil futures gained 59 cents to $85.45 a barrel. U.S. crude futures climbed 90 cents to $83.18 a barrel after hitting $83.73 a barrel, their highest since October 2014. Back home, gold gained 37 rupees to 46,306 rupees per 10 grams at Delhi's bullion market. This is Lalema Aneja Dang for World News, All India Radio.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Guardian writes, Myanmar military says it will release 5,600 anti-coup prisoners. The Globe and Mail reports former Somali politician identifies his son as suspect held in stabbing of UK MP. Wall Street Journal writes China's third quarter economic growth slows sharply to 4.9%. Sputnik News says regional capital of Ethiopia's Tigray reportedly hit by airstrikes. The Sydney Morning Herald reports former U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell dies of COVID-19 complications.
And now a quick look at the headlines once again. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar meets Israeli counterpart Yair Lapid. Both nations agree to resume negotiations on free trade agreement in November. India supports consensus-based principles and a peaceful, open, rule-based and stable world order, says Defense Minister Rajnath Singh. French ambassador to Belarus expelled amidst tensions with the European Union. Russia suspends NATO mission in retaliation to the expulsion of its diplomats. India to participate in the upcoming Moscow format meeting on Afghanistan. And at the T20 World Cup, Ireland defeats the Netherlands by 7 wickets. India is celebrating the 152nd birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let us listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnavajan, by artists from Israel. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.